Hello and welcome. It's so great to hear all of this buzzy energy in this room tonight. I am Karina Lesser. I am the Artistic Director of Scripps Presents, and it's such a great pleasure to have all of you here with us. It's also our great honor to have KPCC's Unheard LA and all of these amazing storytellers. So Scripps Presents is the public programming series of Scripps College, where you are here today. This program actually kicks off our first week of programming for the fall season. Scripps Presents seeks to bring the most relevant and timely artists, writers, and scholars into conversation with our community. In the next couple of months, we'll have people like Pulitzer Prize-winning author Colson Whitehead, Jonathan Safran Foer. We'll also have Michael Barbero from The Daily, who some of you may listen to on KPCC. So we really hope that you'll join us for those. All of those events are mostly free and open to the public, and so you can join our mailing list in the lobby. And now I'm very, very pleased to welcome to the stage KPCC's John Cohen and Ashley Alvarado.
It's amazing to be here. We don't usually get introduced by other people, so you have the benefit of two introductions. And that's what you get for the exorbitant ticket price that we charge today, so you're welcome. So yes, on behalf of KPCC and LAist, welcome to the Garrison Theater. Let's give it up to Scripps Presents.
Thank you again so much for coming. I'm Ashley Alvarado. I'm the Director of Community Engagement at KPCC LAist.
I'm John Cohen. I manage live programming and events for KPCC and LAist. We're really into polls and surveys. We're very serious people over there at KPCC, so we like to know exactly.
For 2020.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Coverage is key. So by a round of applause, just so we know what we're dealing with, how many of you are KPCC listeners or LAist readers? By a round of applause. Thank you. So how many of you are Scripps Presents subscribers? Excellent. Now it gets really serious. How many of you are KPCC or LAist members? Seriously, thank you. You make everything we do possible, which includes the anomaly of actually having more members than actual readers, subscribers, and listeners in the room, which is really incredible. So though all of you supporting all of those services without actually consuming them, thank you. We're really, really honored to be part of Scripps Presents and really part of their kickoff. Unheard LA is in its third season, and this is the first time we've been presented by an arts organization. So it's an honor for us. We're humbled. So thank you to all the folks at Scripps Presents. Thank you.
And so we know that in Los Angeles and Claremont, there are a lot of stories that have gone untold, but something that we really dove into with Unheard LA is exploring the stories that haven't been heard, that haven't been brought to the mainstream. And so we wanted to explore Los Angeles one story at a time. We're very grateful to have the support of California Wellness Foundation to be able to do that tonight.
Real people amplified is the way we describe Unheard. And every show is distinct, every show is unique, because every person is distinct and every person is unique. And this is an opportunity for us to do a little bit more listening, and so we're sort of honored to be that platform.
You can also find this video and past shows at unheardla.org. I would encourage you to check out that site, and while you're there, RSVP for our next two shows in Torrance and Northridge, and maybe share your story too.
Without further ado, we'd like to welcome your host, Watts native, Angelino, storyteller, performance artist extraordinaire, our very own Bruce Lemon.
What's good, LA? Happy Saturday, Clermont. Welcome to the city of trees and PhDs. Woo! That's a really good nickname for a city, I must say. Welcome to the Garrison Theater here at Scripps College. I'm Bruce Lemon. I am a professional public radio hype man and your host for the evening. We have an epic lineup of your neighbors from right here and friends from all over LA County here to share their stories with you. But before we dive in, what's yours? Who's sitting next to someone they do not know? Never met before. Anybody? Sit next to a stranger? Okay, that's a good amount of you. How about you introduce yourself? Look over to your neighbor and say hi. Now, introduce yourself. Tell them who you are. You see, we're talking. We're learning each other. All right, now, tell them where you're from. All right, everyone. How about you tell me, you tell everybody else in this theater, and tell everyone streaming this live on Facebook. On the count of three, everybody just shout out where you come from. You don't gotta say where you live, your whole address, just where you're from, all right? On the count of three. 1, 2, 3, go. Yes. See, that is what Unheard LA is all about. Meeting new people, hearing new stories, and sharing your own. Now, our last show was in Little Tokyo, and since then, we've been presenting a series of other storytelling shows that have been hosted by our Unheard LA alums, and that brought whole new communities of storytellers together. And we're always looking for more, so join the family, all right? Hit us up online or in the lobby, or both. Are y'all ready to kick this thing off? Yeah. There's a time and a place for everything. It's called college. But it's like Vegas, right? Whatever happens there stays there. Well, probably stays there. Okay, actually, it will follow you the rest of your life. Here to talk about her moment of truth. Please welcome our first storyteller of the evening, Mary Jane Turner.
Years later, and I still wonder why 3 college roommates thought it would be a good idea to go to the Mardi Gras. Then I realized that when you put college roommates and Mardi Gras in the same sentence, there really wasn't much thinking going on. There were certainly many reasons why it wasn't a good idea. We weren't sure how we would even get from Ohio to New Orleans, and midterms were quickly approaching. But for me, the biggest obstacle was I didn't have any money. I considered my options and realized all of them required that I call my mother and ask for money. My mother was a very honest person, and one of the most important values she instilled in her 5 children was the importance of truthfulness. I remember the time I used my sister's bed as a trampoline and I broke the bed. My first response to my mother was, "I didn't do it." But my mother knew I was lying, and she sat me down for a talk. She didn't lecture, but calmly explained that not being truthful breaks down your integrity. And if you continually lie, the others will start to question when you can be believed. She always told us, what you lie about might actually happen, and one lie often leads to more lies. And it is so very wrong to lie for your own personal gain. But I really wanted to go to the Mardi Gras, so I called my mom and lied. I told her I needed new snow boots. She willingly sent me the money, and I was on my way to New Orleans. Fast forward about 6 months, and I'm home from college on summer break. My mom and I are shopping one day, and what happened next, I remember it like it happened yesterday. As we passed a shoe store, I said, "Oh, I need new boots." Instantly, I realized what I had said. My mom says, "Didn't I send you money earlier this year for you to buy new boots?" And I respond, "Didn't I tell you they were stolen?" Then, of course, I had to make up a story, or you could say lie again, and explain how those boots were stolen. Because she didn't really question my explanation, I thought the conversation about those boots was over. Fast forward a few more months, and I'm back at school, and I get a call from my mother. She tells me that her insurance agent said the stolen boots would be covered under her homeowner's policy. But they needed a receipt. I told her I didn't have a receipt, and that was no lie. But the insurance company didn't reimburse her even though she didn't have a receipt. Certainly, I thought, this just has to be the end of the conversations about those boots. Fast forward about 35 years, and I'm now living in the Los Angeles area. My sisters and I meet in Ohio to visit our mother. My one sister starts talking about all the things she had done in high school that my mom was not aware of. And as I was listening, I thought, my mom is handling this quite well. So maybe I should come clean about those stolen boots. I asked my mom if she remembered when I was in college and she sent me money to buy some boots. She says, "Oh yes, the boots that were stolen." Well, I say they weren't stolen because I actually never bought any boots. I lied. I used the money to go to Mardi Gras. She says, "You want me to believe you went to Mardi Gras?" I don't think you would have done that. No, I said, I really did go to Mardi Gras. I never bought boots. Then I saw this look of panic come over my mom, and I recognized that she was thinking that she had lied to the insurance company so many years ago. I realized at that moment that sometimes, just sometimes, it really is okay to tell a little white lie. And I looked at her and said, "Of course I didn't go to Mardi Gras. I was just kidding." Finally, the end of talking about those Mardi Gras boots.
I love going out to eat, but a home-cooked meal is more than just food. Feeding loved ones is akin to a hug, and you can tell when there's love in the preparation of that meal, right? Food is family. And speaking of family, please welcome back to the stage, back to the Unheard LA stage, Pomona's very own Corey Best Kept Cofer.
Irene lived 3 duplexes down from where we lived. She wore jeans that never showed her legs. She believed they were too big for jeans and legs were too fat to show. And she walked everywhere slowly, hair not done, armpits not shaved, always smiling. And Irene had twin daughters that weren't twins. Jennifer and Jessica were 7 and 8, but identical. They taught my little sister to play Chinese jump rope. They were good at it. Irene and Mama would sit in the living room across the street and talk grown folk talk. They took turns telling their, "Ooh, child, guess what happened? Ooh, child, guess what happened? Ooh, child, guess what happened" stories, as they shared cigarettes and lighters until their loads of clothes were no longer soiled. And Irene would often send one of her daughters over to borrow things like a cup of sugar or a stick of butter. And we would borrow things from her too, like aspirins and cooking oil and thread. There was no shame in borrowing from neighbors who were at a similar economic disadvantage. Pride and humility weren't factors. Poor people always needed something. We all understood that. A little salt here, a little dish soap there didn't hurt nobody. And parents sent their kids to borrow because we ran fast. The twins would always seem to breathe heavily when they knocked on our door. And when Mama would send me to borrow something, I'd pretend like I was scoring touchdowns until I reached the doorstep. Knock, knock. And when dark, I'd pretend somebody was chasing me, which always made me run fast until I reached that doorstep. Knock, knock. One evening, Irene and her girls showed up at our doorstep, and she clutched a doubled-up brown foothills paper bag with her strong hand, rocking an old lady shawl too delicate to wash. "Can I borrow your stove so I can fry this chicken?" They turned my electricity off. Mama responded, "Come on, girl, my kitchen is your kitchen." And Irene smiled her smile and walked her slow walk to our kitchen. Man, she went to work in our kitchen like she worked in a kitchen. She and her mom, they talked a little grown folk talk while she got busy. I mean, the brown bag had everything. Chicken legs and flowers and seasoned salt and vegetable oil and large bowl, a small bowl, large fork, pepper, skillet, pot, garlic, canned corn, everything. And Irene placed that chicken in the grease in her hands like surgeon hands, steady and accurate and thorough. Mama never made chicken with garlic, and it smelled so damn good. And my older brother and my sister and I had yet to eat, and I wanted so badly to ask Irene for a piece of chicken. The first batch was complete, and I wanted to wrap that piece of chicken with a slice of bread and pour on some Louisiana hot sauce and tear into it like carnivores do, or like fans when they tailgate. It smelled so damn good. And without saying anything, I knew my siblings agreed. We were Pavlov's dogs, trying our best to concentrate on the television, mouths watering, noses full of the smell of someone else's chicken that smelled better than our mama's. It smelled like the perfect day. Hell, it smelled better than Popeye's chicken sandwich. It smelled like the best chicken raised on the best farm by the best farmers using the best farming practices. It smelled like Irene's garlic fried chicken. And we knew her predicament because she had no electricity, no refrigeration, no lights or no nothing. So it would have been selfish for us to fret over a piece of chicken while she and the twins were forced to get dressed, talk, and eat in the dark. And once she finished that second batch of chicken, she asked the twins to help her take the food out. And I held the door open, trying not to look. "Thank you, Rita," she told my mama. "Thank you so much." And immediately after I shut the door, Mama told us to put on our shoes so we can go to the store and get some chicken. And my brother and my sister popped up like a trampoline. Shoes got put on and fast forward, socks ignored, jackets too. But before we left, Mama sent me to Irene's house with 2 candles. And this time, I pretended I was running to KFC until I reached the doorstep. Knock, knock. Thank you.
I'm gonna need that recipe, Corey. I hope you got it. Every episode of Unheard LA reminds me of how capable and resilient we can be as individuals, and how important it can be to connect with other people. We're here for a reminder. Please welcome to the stage someone who may be a familiar face to all you Claremont and Pomona folks, Alan Kalachi.
It's the first day of daylight saving time. There is still some light left as we begin to load in and carry the banged up, stickered guitar cases and thrashed up amps up the concrete steps into the darkly lit American Legion Hall in Pomona. As I enter the hall, the strange adobe grays drift away, hit me squarely across my freshly scarred chest. My band, Refrigerator, which my younger brother Dennis and I formed in the early 90s, has played our adopted hometown of Pomona 100 different times over the past 20 years. But this show is different. This will be our first time stepping on stage since my heart transplant last year at Cedars-Sinai. I'd been given roughly a 20% chance of surviving, and now, here I am. As we load our gear in the emotions of gratitude and disbelief wrestle for control of my soul. Music is where I've always gone to heal. It was Elton John, Someone Saved My Life Tonight, that helped hold me together through my parents' separation in elementary school. And it was The Who's Quadrophenia that carried me through my retainer-fitted adolescence. My 8-year-old nephew Henry loaned me his small plastic Fisher-Price CD player to keep me company in the Cedars-Sinai ICU. The player became a lifeline in the ICU, an invisible bridge only I could see that connected me to home as I waited for my new heart to arrive, connected to 27 IVs, 2 ventricular assist devices, and a polyurethane feeding tube wormed down the dried out contours of my throat. I'd gaze up at my ceiling from my tightly tucked hospital bed as the Best of the Velvet Underground levitated out from that Fisher-Price player, wondering how, when, and if I'd ever sing again. As the Legion Hall's bar and pool table, there are a handful of old soldiers. Legion Halls were funded in the early 1900s by veterans returning home from World War I. They were established as places where vets could gather collectively to forget their battles and their scars and to heal and reconnect. In less than 2 hours, we will be on. Heart Like a Starfish is the last song listed on the set list. Heart Like a Starfish was written in 1992. The title was inspired by something I'd read once about how a heart, like the arm of a starfish, can be broken, but then can also be regrown. Post-transplant, the title of the song has taken on a far more literal meaning. As we make our way down the set list, it's funny how songs that were written a decade or more ago feel like they could have been written earlier this afternoon. It's like they were secret codes sent by my future self that had been subconsciously picked up and set to music. Hello, Pomona, we love you, I bellow. The next one is called Be Positive, which I recently learned also happens to be my blood type. A voice from the back of the Legion Hall bellows, "Of course it is." And then we launch into Be Positive, which is one of the last songs we recorded before my transplant surgery. The chorus of Be Positive makes its way through each and every aging crease of the Legion Hall. Before the last note fully fades, my sister Loretta comes running up and gives me a bear hug. I look around at all the different people gathered here from all the different corners of your life, she says, and I think this wasn't like being at a refrigerator show at all. It was more like being at your wedding. Where Loretta sees wedding, my brother Dennis sees funerals. This was like playing the best kind of funeral ever, he beams after the show. A funeral without a body. The eclipse that occurred on the day of my new heart was put in was the first annular eclipse of the 21st century. An annular eclipse differs from a standard eclipse in that the sun does not go completely dark, only the center goes dark. The circumference of the sun can still be seen, blazing like a bright orange stain left from the bottom of a cosmic coffee cup on a pitch black tablecloth. The overhanging darkness gets ringed by the light. The show ends. For the first time in close to a year, I have fully returned. The eclipse has passed. The light has come out from hiding. I find my way from the Legion Hall to my old Corolla. It is the first day of daylight saving time. An extra hour of daylight has been granted to be made the most of, to be danced with, sung to, captured, and then set free. If your book of dreams gets lost and found in the town that you departed, gets picked up by some two-bit clown who deems it childish, I will track him down, explain in grave detail the significance of every letter and the reasons why you left here. I step on the gas and head towards home. Hey, be positive. See, this isn't over.
I've been hosting Unheard LA for 3 years. A storytelling series with real people telling a range of true stories, and there is a healing power to what is shared. I know this. I understand this. But it wasn't until I had my very first therapy appointment a few weeks ago that I felt it. Here to talk it out, please welcome Christy or Geta.
It's August 2018, and on this day, I am stressed out. A little bit of context here. I work at a college campus, and for people who work at universities, August is a really challenging month. Student workers are being trained, residents are moving in, and faculty members are returning to school, all at the same time. Thankfully, people who work with college students are equipped with tools to navigate situations just like this. My favorite of the bunch is called Mental Health First Aid. With Mental Health First Aid, you are trained to identify signs of mental illness. Eventually, you know how to step in and respond when situations like this arise. It's a multi-step process, but administering first aid of the mental health type generally works like this. You listen non-judgmentally, you give assurance, and you encourage the person you are helping to seek professional help and other support strategies. It works great with college students and people in general. So, back to August 2018. I'm in my car hauling supplies from one part of campus to another. I pull out of my parking spot and choose to make a U-turn through a double yellow line. I know it's against the law, and it's not an excuse, but everyone at school does it. Students, faculty, staff, and on this day, I just happened to be the person that got caught doing it. Next thing I know, I hear that boop boop sound that nobody wants to hear. It's the University Police Department. So I pull over and I begin feeling my feelings. I'm regretting my choices and sulking in the thought of what's about to happen. I roll down the window. The police officer arrives at my car and lets me know that she pulled me over because my U-turn was against the law. She then asks me for my license and registration. I hand them over to her, shocked. She then walks away to check the documents. As I'm sitting there by myself, the stress of the week comes over me. Suddenly, I do the unthinkable. I start to cry, literally bawling. This is significant because I rarely cry. I didn't cry when my best friend died, or at my wedding, or even at my grandma's funeral. But getting pulled over? This was something. When the police officer gets back to my window, I try to compose myself. And it works for a little bit. She lets me know sternly that she was letting me go, and that if I got caught again, she wouldn't hesitate to pull me over. Then she looks at me and notices the tears in my eyes. "Are you crying?" she asks. "Why are you crying?" "I've been caught." The tears begin to flow. "I'm just having a really hard day," I said through the sound of my sniffles. "Life is really stressful for me right now." She pauses. "How old are you?" she asks. Suddenly, it hits me. I realize that she thinks I'm a student at the university. The thing is, I'm not. I work here. I supervise the professionals who supervise students. 32, I respond. The embarrassment washes over me. I start to cry even more. Listen, she begins. "It's okay, I get it. I'm 40, I'm getting a divorce, my life is a mess. It will be okay." I begin to calm down as her kind words set in with me. A moment passes and I'm able to collect myself. "Thanks," I respond. "Are you going to be okay?" she asks, beginning to close the loop on the situation. "Do you need me to bring you over to counseling and psychological services?" I feel a little silly again because I'm not a student and the University Counseling Center is only meant for students. But I know she's coming from a good place, and it's way too late in the conversation to correct her. "No," I respond. "Do you have anyone you can talk to about this?" she asks. "Yes," I say. Shortly after that, she wishes me well, and we part ways. I haven't seen her since, but I'll never forget what happened. She listened non-judgmentally, she gave me assurance, and she encouraged me to seek professional help. Like I mentioned, mental health first aid works great with college students and people in general. And on this day, it worked really well with me.
It's very exciting to be here in Claremont today. I have plenty of family out in the Pomona Valley and in the nearby Inland Empire, so tonight's mixer might double as a family reunion. Just giving you a heads up. Now, the LA Times called our next guest one of the most underappreciated storytellers. Well, now we have the opportunity to appreciate him. So let's get some love for Claremont's very own David Allen.
We can't all be lucky enough to have been born in Claremont. Like many residents, I'm a transplant, but I've achieved a milestone. As of July, I've lived in Claremont 20 years. That's 1 year longer than I've lived anywhere else. 20 years is a span that looms large in Claremont history, by the way. It's the amount of time that elapsed between the city's 1887 founding and its 1907 incorporation. Claremont makes a big deal of both its founding and its incorporation because this is a city that loves to celebrate itself. Claremont would attend the opening of an envelope. Especially if it were postmarked 91711. In fact, Claremont threw a party to celebrate its zip code on September 17th, 2011, 9/17/11. And afterward, this is true, some people asked if the event could become annual. Disappointingly, nobody threw a party for my 20th anniversary in Claremont, so I treated myself. For breakfast, I got a pastry at Suncrest Bakery. It's the semi-official way to start your day here. I bumped into owner Larry Feemster on the sidewalk and told him I'd been living here 20 years. He listened politely. He's been here more than 30. Clermont is full of transplants like us. Chet Yeager moved here with his parents at age 6 in 1931. He's never left. The Dixieland jazz musician, now 94, has performed at summertime concerts in the park since the 1940s, including this past July. After 88 years in Claremont, his standard line remains, "I think I'm going to like it here." Establishing yourself in Claremont can take some effort. People here are initially wary of newcomers like Chet Yeager and me. When downtown expanded a decade ago, people gave the new part its own name until it could prove itself worthy. Pomona College moved here in 1888 and never felt comfortable changing its name. The signs at city limits say, "Welcome to Claremont," but you shouldn't take that literally. Still, 2 decades in Claremont at least gives me a toehold. If I ever need to complain at a city council meeting, I can now say gravely, as a resident for 20 years, at 19 years, would anybody have paid attention? But what's to complain about? Claremont is a city of trees and PhDs. The colleges have lovely grounds, classic architecture, nationally known professors and speakers. Downtown is lively, with one-of-a-kind stores, a farmer's market, an ice cream shop, an independent film multiplex, a record store, a folk music store, a nonprofit bookstore, an art museum. The streets are full of character, the sidewalks full of characters. There are a few real problems. Thus, to have something to fret about, the city's large creative class is forced to invent problems. And I'm proud to say they are up to the task. A recent guest column in the local weekly, the Claremont Courier, listed the city's charms before concluding darkly, "If this sounds too good, it is." Among the issues the writer finds outrageous: leaf blowers, the size of people's vehicles, and the over-trimming of trees. If we would only address these urgent matters, it would be possible, he wrote, quote, "to upgrade Claremont to the level of a livable city." At first, I was alarmed to hear that I was residing in an unlivable hellhole. But then I recalled that the writer began by boasting that he'd lived here 11 years. Please. Claremont commendably shrugged off his burst of negativity. High self-regard is in the city's DNA. The late owner of the Courier liked to call his city an island of culture in a sea of slobs. What did I tell you about the welcome to Clermont signs? We do, of course, allow you to come here and spend your money. People visit because Clermont is adorable. And it's also becoming precious. It's a city with 5 bakeries, 3 sushi bars, 2 ramen shops, a Belgian pub, a cheese store, and 1 shop, soon to be 2 shops, specializing in olive oil. Yes, we have retail storefronts devoted to individual ingredients. With all this in mind, you should not be surprised to learn that Leonard Cohen used to hang out in the village during his Zen phase on Mount Baldy, that New Age guru and presidential candidate Marianne Williamson attended college here, or that a member of the city council makes her living as a yoga instructor. I got into a discussion recently with John Niebuhr, the president of the preservation nonprofit Claremont Heritage, about our respective tenures here. He and his wife, Karen, arrived 16 years ago. He calls that length of time respectable. Their first decade was tough. With Claremonters, John said, one of the first things people ask you after meeting you is how long you've lived here. For his first decade, when he answered that question, he got looks of pity. I can barely remember my own first decade in Clermont. It's been so long ago. Lore has it that I settled in a Claremont back house after moving out in an anonymous apartment complex in Rancho Cucamonga. Perhaps the first person to make that journey was Lily Thompson Hawkinson. She traveled to Clermont from Etiwanda, part of today's Rancho Cucamonga, in 1898. She and some fellow 8th graders came in a horse-drawn wagon driven by her father. The trip was about 13 miles and took them 5 hours. They arrived coated in dust. Surprisingly, they were not turned back at the Clermont border. I read about her in the book This is Clermont. It's a history book published in 1941, or only 34 years after cityhood. Clermont began celebrating itself early. Recently, I bumped into Sam Pedroza, a former councilman, on the sidewalk. Clermont is a city where you bump into people you know on the sidewalk. I shared that I'd been here 20 years. Sam replied, "So you're new?" He's been here 23 years. He added, "You almost have to be here multiple generations to be from Clermont." John Niebuhr had said something similar to me in his own well wishes. 20 years is citizenship. You have arrived, but you weren't born here. Those born here are on the top of the heap. I'll never be able to say I was born here. Neither can Chet Yeager, even after 88 years in Clermont. But as with him, I look around at Clermont after 20 years and say, I think I'm going to like it here.
Life happens in an instant. Good or bad, your world can change in a flash, and suddenly you find yourself navigating the new normal with a brand new story to tell. Please welcome to the stage, V.
I met my husband James on a dating site for jazz lovers. The first time we spoke on the phone, I felt like I had known him all my life. The man I met and fell in love with was articulate, kind, insightful, predictable, and smart, a diamond among lots of pretenders to the throne. When we learned he had glioblastoma, a different man emerged. Blastomas are brain cancer, of which glio is the most severe. Its first sign that can't be confused for something else is a seizure. After confirmation, we found out what was in store for us. His personality changed continuously. His sharp insight changed to confusion. His predictability changed to moods du jour with rapidity and without warning. Trips to familiar places became journeys into unintentional hide-and-seek landscapes where fear and literal loss could lurk and emerge from every aisle. Yet we were able to master the new us and remain resilient and loving even at stressful times, like when I lost him at Walmart. Among so many other things I've been told, don't let him out of your sight. So we went to the store and we agreed to get our stuff and then meet back at the cash register. I got there and he wasn't. I walked back and forth, I looked down the aisles, no James. I went out to the car thinking, guess he couldn't wait. He wasn't there either. Then I went to the courtesy desk where 90% of the time there is no courtesy. And I asked them to page James Towner. They did more than once, and after 10 minutes there was no response. Everyone in that store heard his name. I'm sure he heard it too. He was just having one of those soon-to-be all-the-time moments when he didn't know his name, or he didn't know where he was. Being a little Miss Proactive, I went to the entrance of the men's bathroom and I asked the next man who passed by to please look for the love of my life, and I described what he was wearing. The guy came out and said, nope, he's not in there. For the first time since this diagnosis, I panicked big time and the words returned to me, don't let him out of your sight. I told myself, calm down, buy your items, sit down and wait. You have the car keys, he doesn't. After I bought those items, I looked up, and he was standing not far from the end of the cash register. And he scolded me, saying, didn't we say we'd meet at the cash register? Where were you? The manager came up to us and said, Mr. Towner, we've been looking all over for you. He glared at the man, and he shouted, what? There is no worse feeling than knowing you've been told something crucial and either didn't pay attention, or you just didn't believe the very person you asked for advice in the first place. For all those dealing with relatives or friends who are suffering from illnesses for which there are no cures, I ask that you find time each day to laugh, to make that person laugh, to hug and not make everything so heavy. Sharing life with the person you know is going to die is like a roller coaster from hell. It was even worse in our case, as we knew exactly within a range of a few months when he was going to die. One thing that has always served me well is understanding the world around me, recognizing every minute of every day lots of things are dying, shifting from sentient to insentient, from active to latent. I think dying must be like going to sleep. You close your eyes and mentally you're in a whole nother place, but it's actually the same place. You haven't floated away. You're still in the universe. So that person who dies gets to experience the universe in a totally different and awesome way, and we're all going to do it. When we were given his lifespan, I asked, honey, now that we know when you're going to die, what do you want? What can I do for you? What would make you happy? Without hesitation, he said, I want to see my 60th birthday. So as a Buddhist, I cheerfully said, okay, I'll make it so. James' 60th birthday was October 23rd, 2007, and he died on October 29th. Thank you.
Forbidden Love, Romeo and Juliet, Angels and Dodgers. Red chilaquiles or green chilaquiles? Some divides are just too big for the timid to tackle, but not our next storyteller. Please welcome to the stage, Gene Sculati.
I'm 72 years old and I'm a trader. Born in San Francisco, raised in Napa Valley like my parents before me. At 26, I committed the most unpardonable betrayal a Northern Californian could commit. I voluntarily moved to Los Angeles. It's part of a contrarian streak that occasionally surfaces in my life. While the bullet train may someday unite North and South, the Bay Area always saw itself as separate, the sophisticated older sister to an LA that it relentlessly ridiculed as plastic, a cultural desert, 200 suburbs in search of a city. This was the official party line that every kid from Mountain View to Mendocino was taught. But as far back as high school in the early 60s, I was smitten with the idea of Los Angeles. I consumed as much information as I could about the forbidden city 400 miles away, as if I were tuned in to a shortwave radio transmitting coded messages from the enemy state. My primary source was the jet-age doo-wop of the Beach Boys. But in the run-up to California overtaking New York as the most populous state in 1964, there were also countless newspaper articles and Life magazine cover spreads and TV specials that depicted the glories of Cali's other half. I studied maps of the area and kept lists of SoCal cities and their growth. To this day, I can say with absolute certainty that the population of Burbank in 1960 was 9,155. I wrote to the chambers of commerce of many of those 200 suburbs and amassed a stack of brochures extolling the virtues of Alhambra and Bellflower and Norwalk and Downey. But eventually, just studying LA wasn't enough. I began drawing my impressions of it on white shelf paper with pen and crayon. These cityscapes averaged about 50 feet in length. This isn't Ed Ruscha's Every Building on the Sunset Strip. This is fictional, untutored art that expresses what the landscape and the signage looked and felt like to me from a distance. I made a couple of trips to the Promised Land and photographed what I saw. Some of this made it into the cityscapes. Huge Zodi's discount stores. A Del Taco silhouetted against the gigantic water slide on Beach Boulevard. Colonel Sanders' short-lived Kentucky beef restaurant on Lankershim. And what I termed the cyber meadows of the South Bay, along Artesia Boulevard, where cows grazed in pastures surrounding low-rise buildings that housed semiconductor firms with names like Centrex and Micron. Then on a clear day in 1973, I defected to try and get into the music business. I packed up and drove down the 5 and moved into a 2-story house in Laurel Canyon. The living room was also the kitchen, and the stove sat atop a mini fridge. But I was here on Lookout Mountain Avenue, where a space rock band that dressed in tinfoil suits had spray painted its name in the street, Zolar X. Where the singer-songwriter next door practiced to be the next Carole King, her tie-dyed piano-led sing-alongs daily killing the canyon quiet. I wasn't alone at the house. Its owner, Eddie Vallejo, had subdivided the place into a trio of rental units. A New York couple adjacent to me, and another family downstairs. Life was good until one day when the county posted eviction notices on all our doors, declaring that 8721 Lookout Mountain was not zoned for multiple occupancy. But Eddie Vallejo had a solution to convince building inspectors that we were all members of one extended family sharing communal facilities, a sort of non-sexy Three's Company. He swapped out appliances from one unit to another. The washing machine from the couple next door was moved into my living room, and the downstairs renter's TV and stereo relocated to the New Yorker's bedroom. The county didn't buy it, and we were all soon gone. Thereafter, I lived in North Hollywood, Los Feliz, Mid-Wilshire, and Northridge. I met and married Marcia, who came from El Monte and Temple City, and pursued a career. The first job I had at Warner Brothers Records was writing liner notes and ad copy for a reissue of 2 Beach Boys albums. I would have paid the label for that job. I've now lived more than half my life here. I still have a valid passport to Northern California, and I go to visit. But this is my home. As the city grows and changes, it has started to appear to me as an expanded version of Eddie Vallejo's Laurel Canyon pad. We're all here, disparate folks occupying the same space. Fermine and Sandra next door, Marcia's Irish tutor, Sean, our African-American Reagan Republican neighbor in mid-Wilshire, and 4 million others moving along corridors with triumphal names like Victory Boulevard, Century Boulevard, and Imperial Highway. I never stop drawing what I see around me. There are now about 15 finished cityscapes, the longest stretching to 190 feet. I have made one concession to age. I no longer do my drawing lying on my stomach on the floor. These days, I sit at a drafting table. Is there a chance I'll ever repatriate to NorCal? Don't worry, baby.
After the show at the Mixer, we're gonna have one of Gene's cityscapes out in the lobby, so make sure you check that out, all right? Take it in, take a moment. You know, life is full of all kinds of moments. Moments of truth, golden moments, awkward moments. Oh, I love an awkward moment. Especially an awkward moment that's followed by an awkward silence, like, See, that was great. That was great. Good time. Here to tell you about one of her moments, please welcome Amy, Jo Leigh.
Before I was arrested for drunk driving, I knew I was moving to Los Angeles. I knew it was time to start fresh and leave Atlanta, Georgia after several years of stagnation following my college graduation in 2008. Los Angeles represented an exciting and hopeful change, an unexplored frontier of creative opportunities where I could realistically pursue my passion for writing and film and begin my next chapter from my older sister's couch. After I was arrested in December 2015, I knew less about my future and myself than ever before in my young life. My eagerly anticipated escape from Atlanta had been dismantled by my own destructive habits and intense denial. I didn't know what would happen to me. I didn't know what legal or financial ramifications I would face. I didn't know if I was an alcoholic or if I possessed the fortitude to do anything about it. I didn't know how to repair the damage I'd inflicted upon myself and the people closest to me. My planned move to Los Angeles shifted abruptly from certainty to possibility. I would only get there if I was willing to earn it. This entailed the standard community service and series of classes, fees, and paperwork, but most importantly, completely abstaining from alcohol. This final change was as difficult as it was necessary, and while it was not court mandated, the visibly corrosive effects of my behavior on my loved ones in my own life made the choice simple. With the incredible support of my family, therapist, and lawyer, I managed to reach California in October 2016, 9 months free of alcohol. Even before I found a job or my own place to live, I felt victorious. Shortly after arriving, I sought out one of my favorite social pastimes, bar-style trivia on my favorite TV show, The Simpsons. This type of trivia serves as both an entertaining competition and a meeting ground for like-minded, generally offbeat nerds, i.e. my social circle. In the back room of Meltdown Comics, I had just taken to the modest stage to claim my team's third-place prize. My initial pride and excitement, however, turned quickly to discomfort when a 40-ounce bottle of Miller High Life was placed in each of my hands. The well-meaning host congratulated me and asked jokingly, "You're not one of those AA people, are you?" To which I replied, while I stared at him and the jovial crowd of my peers. Suddenly, in the harsh light of this comic book shop, I had been laid bare by an unwittingly personal question and a microphone in my face. But this time, I didn't feel ashamed or pathetic when the shower curtain was pulled back and my truth was revealed. I didn't feel crushed with guilt or fear the way I had following my arrest. And I did not, for even a moment on that stage, feel tempted to drink those beers. What I felt was awkward, profoundly awkward, like an already socially anxious deer caught in dangerously bright headlights. The question was not if I drank or not. He had specifically asked if I was one of those AA people. I told the room, yeah, sorry, hi, I'm Amy, 1 year. After the equally awkward crowd offered either silence or minimal applause, I added, but I have 2 team members who will enjoy these. This seemed to help slightly shift the mood back from tense to comical. As I left the stage, the hosts, one of which is now a good friend, started to admonish themselves and apologize. I handed the bottles to my teammates and returned gratefully to my seat. The second place prize was also alcoholic, but the winners were quite amenable. Finally, first place was revealed, a bottle of Jameson. The woman who rose to collect the prize was a regular competitor and the reigning champion. She was also a fellow recovering addict and my friend. She was asked the same question that had been posed to me, albeit with greater shame and self-mockery. Yep, she said, 11 years. She spoke without hesitation or sheepishness. She chuckled at the situation and the continuous apologies from the hosts. I started to smile, then clap, then hoot. The room had been granted permission to laugh at the situation, and we did. My awkwardness transformed into a surreal sense of pride and camaraderie. I didn't feel the need to hide or leave. Only later, when I was sharing this story with my parents, did it occur to me that I had passed a unique test, one practically custom-fitted for me. While I was on that stage, holding free beer before a gathering of my fellow nerds, I may not have known what to say, but I knew what to do. I knew with quiet yet unwavering clarity, because I am no longer who I was. And in that moment, I had proven it. As of writing this, it has been 3 years and 7 months since I made the best decision in my life. It has also been 2.5 years since the hosts at Simpsons Trivia began regularly reassuring the audience that they have learned their lesson and will not be awarding alcohol. And it's still funny.
Words are powerful, and poets put them together in ways that make you go, ooh. Well, our next storyteller teaches ooh in a classroom setting. Please welcome Matthew Cuban Hernandez.
California incarcerates more youth than any other state. Growing up, I was only 1 or 2 steps away from being pulled into the reality of the school to prison pipeline. For the last 5 years, though, I've worked with organizations like Street Poets, Inc. or the Arts for Incarcerated Youth Network, and completely devoted myself to teaching, writing, and performing poetry as a form of healing in juvenile detention centers. Last week, 2 of my favorite students wrapped their knuckles around each other. Now, in class, when we're upset or aggravated, we do push-ups, or we listen to really cool beats. The other day, on my sign-in sheet, in the comment section, usually reserved for the principal, one of my boys wrote, "Great class." It was the best part of my day. Now, at the Challenger Memorial Juvenile Detention Center, a youth prison named after a space shuttle that exploded, a failed mission. There is a dog pound at the front gates. You can hear whining and barking as your tires roll through gravel. In the yard, you can see the lights from the state penitentiary directly behind. Most of my boys joke and say that this will be their next step, but in my class, I show them poems. Always my favorite and always the powerful. I tell them there's a future in words. I show them my past, the dirt I crawled through, the voice I stumbled on, the same voice we can find searching the right conversations. We talk of memories, acknowledge and agree that we are the sum of what we remember. Their growth is my process, and I love to watch them blossom. Each poem, a petal forcing its way from a bud, a little more assured each time, each step a little more confident than the last. I don't just try to teach poetry to kids. I try to teach them how to walk in their own skin. I try to teach them how to own their skin when they walk, and sometimes I stand in front of a classroom and my students look like abandoned homes in the neighborhood the city has forgotten. I give them notebooks, I give them tool belts, and talk them into believing that anyone can be a carpenter. I say these words are nails, these poems are houses. Build it carefully because someone might need to live here. I look them in the eyes and say, the sentences you need to focus on do not end with a gavel, they end with a period. Let me show you how to make them with your own hands. Your story is important, so write it down, and they do. Some laugh, some cry. I say it's okay. Our emotions are like lightning bugs, and if we keep them bottled, they will die. And a person who doesn't feel is just a photograph, and you are worth so much more than 1,000 words. You are an ocean of confessions, begging for an out. There is a key in your every syllable. The right combination can unlock dreams. I tell them to dream, then edit. I tell them a rough draft is one of the rare times in life you actually get a do-over. I tell them to wrap themselves in their stories. Don't get wrapped up in money, because then you'll become a hater, and haters get halitosis. That's chronic bad breath. I tell them, I don't know why, but it feels true. I tell them to feel for their truth like a switch when engulfed in all life's dark, that this universe loves honesty. So don't hold your tongue or your punches. Their process is my growth, and the only time I don't feel guilty prostituting my emotions for strangers, I tell them everything someone told me once. You can be great. Each poem, a petal forcing its way from a bud, a little more assured each time, each step, a little more confident than the next. I tell them I love them, because most of the time, they never hear that. I tell them no matter what society has shown them, no matter what their judge has told them, that they are not a failed mission. To me. Thank you.
Few experiences pack in so many memories like a family road trip. And those memories can range from fond to frightening, depending on where you sit. Please welcome to the stage, Danny Imura.
Do you want to be happy or miserable? Perspective can determine the positive or negative impact of an event. I learned this from a family vacation. In 1982, I was recovering from a bad home perm, which did not boost my pubescent self-esteem. No. It was also the year I got the hottie boyfriend, which did elevate my self-image. Spending the summer gazing at him, or getting carted off on a family road trip. What do you think I ended up doing? My sister traveled ahead of us to work on a Girl Scout ranch. She would win first place bronco riding a sheep. The plan was to collect her in Colorado and then experience the western U.S. on the way home. Now, this trip had to be the inspiration for National Lampoon's Vacation, only no Auntie Edna was tied to our car roof. Wally World was the Grand Tetons, and our vacation-determined Clark Griswold was my stepfather, who wanted to spend the least amount of money on this trip. Ironically, our great white Ford LTD station wagon, nicknamed Jaws, was the same car model used in the movie. My Arkansas-born stepfather was keen on organization. He Tetrised our gear so tight you couldn't slide a AAA map between items. After declaring individual suitcases were inefficient, we each stuffed 2 weeks of clothing and toiletries into standard-sized pillowcases. It left no room for my hair-taming products. As long as everything stayed dry, what's the worst that could happen? We located every KOA campground of America without smartphones and zoomed by scenic points so fast, I don't remember where Yellowstone ended and the California redwoods began. At one of these campsites, my brother Jerry's pillow suitcase met its tattered end, and he had to make do with a plastic black trash bag for the rest of the trip. Between the blur of visiting multiple attractions crammed into a single day and pitching tents at night by the single glow of a Coleman lantern, my stepdad taught us about nature relevant to the trip. When I asked about the uncomfortable sticky heat, he ended his relative humidity explanation by saying, high humidity is what makes it feel worse than it actually is. The novelty of 2 weeks of driving, camping, and unreliable access to warm showers wore our mother down. The breaking point happened in a general store where I overheard a conversation between the owner and her. Been camping a while, have you? Mom answered, yeah, how did you know? Because your hair's a mess and you smell like smoke. She demanded my stepdad crack out the credit card for a hotel that night, and a road-weary, dusty group of Orange County vacationers trudged through the lobby of a Motel 6. The 6'5" balding Howley in shorts and cowboy boots, his Asian wife with the messy smoked hair, me, the lovesick teenager obsessing over frizzy split ends, the boy with a rice bowl haircut carrying his belongings in a hefty bag, the famed dark-haired sheep wrangler, and a blonde kindergartner who looked adopted. All had the best night's sleep. The youngest, Jeffy, stated emphatically, "This is a nice hotel." Refreshed, we reloaded the car and were homebound. The postcard of a jackalope I sent to my boyfriend read, "I've been paroled. See you before you get this." Alas, the joy of soon being with the hottie again would get dampened quickly. Jeffy had an underdeveloped vagus nerve. This meant that while he was asleep, his brain wasn't telling his body to wake up and go to the bathroom. Jerry was sleeping in the back of Jaws. At some point, our mother placed her child with an unpredictable bladder beside him. And at the next rest stop, Jerry woke up pissed. In more ways than one, when he discovered that both of them, everything they were sleeping on, and all of our pillowcases were soaked. 37 years later, dreamy boyfriend has his own boyfriend. My hair grew out and I grew up. As my 20s through 40s passed by and my older relatives passed on, I began to appreciate the moments I've shared with and continue to form with my family. Because we had not yet been fractured by divorce or distance, we still remember that trip as the best. All of us, except for Jerry, who still isn't over getting whizzed on. I asked him, "Do you want to be happy or miserable? Remember, you were lucky. Your stuff stayed dry because it was in a plastic bag." "You didn't get peed on," he shot back. "Please," I dismissed. "Didn't you learn anything from that trip? Our little bro didn't pee on you. He provided you with high humidity." It only felt worse than it was.
What's the return on an investment in yourself? What degree of risk are you willing to take when the return is you? We're here to break it down for us. Please welcome our final storyteller of the evening, Daniel Mazzacane.
Check opened, September 5th, 1991, 2:08 a.m. 1. Double XL binder, black, yearly subscription, $45.98. Symptoms: reduced lung capacity, breakdown of breast tissue, the loss of feeling in breasts. Touch what is numb and know they promise a future where you do not carry this weight. 1 small packer, 3.75 inches, circumcised, $15.95. Symptoms: chronic yeast infections, constant reminder of your vagina. The first time you wear it, the hole in you feels temporary. 2 pairs of packing underwear, $55.67. Symptoms: your fake penis won't fit in regular boxers, but you still wear them with pride. 2 vials of 1 milliliter depot testosterone, self-inject twice monthly, $85.43. Symptoms: clitoral growth. Sacrifice your liver for a beard and record the ways you can see yourself in the mirror. Your reproductive organs will wither, but second puberty gives you a voice you recognize. 2 23-gauge syringes, $5. Symptoms: when you inject into a vein, don't call 911. It will hurt. You will feel that you are dying. Your heart and lungs will filter out the oil. Remind yourself you are lucky. Remind yourself that the pain is a part of your becoming. 1 double mastectomy, $4,876.05. Symptoms: 6 months spent unable to lift your arms. The numb promises of your body are kept, but nipple grafts cost extra. Look down and see the blank space you dreamed about. 1 gender reassignment, $6,085.80. Add metoidoplasty, $4,104. Add phalloplasty, $9,180. Add incorporation of metaclitoris, $1,620. Add testicular implant, $1,620. Add penile implant, $7,776. Add scrotal construction from labia, $3,240. Add glandsplasty, $1,080. Add vaginectomy, $2,700. Add urethroplasty, $1,080. Total, $36,865.80. Symptoms: pee standing up, using a urinal as a coming-of-age story, hope for minimal complications, and find peace in the fabrication of your body. Subtotal: can you look in the mirror and see yourself yet? Only in thickened voice and beloved scars, total due, what truths did you find at the end of a knife? A puppet with cut strings, Neverland, flight, change due. Who was lost in the transition of power? A daughter looking for truth found himself, alive. Check closed. September 5th, 2017, 2:08 a.m.
Y'all have a good time tonight? Thank you to all the folks that make Unheard LA possible. Scripps Presents and the Garrison Theater, and to the California Wellness Foundation for their amazing support of this project from the very beginning. Also, a very, very special thank you to all of our KPCC and LAist members in the house today. Now, everybody has a story. What's yours? Share it with us at unheardla.org. And while you're there, sign up for our Unheard LA newsletter, which is the best place to get all the information about upcoming shows, salons, and other fun events. And once again, thank you for coming. Before you leave, make sure you grab one of these printed programs so you can read all about our group right here today. Stick around for the mixer. It starts right now, where I encourage you to introduce yourself, meet someone new, and tell them where you're from. And remember, do not leave here tonight with your story unheard. Thank you. Blessed.